What is going on, everyone? In this video, I'm going to be talking about how Bitcoin only loses features as it ages. 3 Bitcoin features that have already disappeared. So what's next? And what am I even talking about? So this is a sad video. I would rather not make this video. I've been a Bitcoin maxi for almost 8 years. And I could never have imagined me making a video like this. So yeah. So here are 3 Bitcoin features that have already disappeared. Bitcoin has already changed in 3 ways, and this could have easily been prevented. Bitcoin has lost 3 features. Think about that. Bitcoin is a technology, and it has lost features. And I'm going to be explaining why the features that you love are next on the chopping block. All right. Feature number 1, solo mining, right? This is one of the features that doesn't exist. You can't solo mine. But why do we care about this? This has nothing to do. Okay, well, guess what? Bitcoin has a bunch of features, right? Bitcoin has like 50 features, right? But we slowly lose them. And Matthew Kratter even expands upon this. Have a listen.
I want to talk about Bitcoin Core and mining pool centralization. We can see that most blocks these days are produced by a number of the largest pools, including all of the Chinese-related pools, as well as Foundry in the US. So this is what mining pool centralization looks like. Why is this a problem? The problem is that the Bitcoin transactions that end up going into most Bitcoin blocks that are mined these days, these transactions are chosen by just a few people in the world. And that's because of the dominance of a few large Bitcoin mining pools that control most of the computational power and thus get to mine most of the blocks. In other words, they have the most hashers pointing toward their pool.
Take a look at this next clip of BTC Sessions voicing the same concerns that Matthew Kratter Bitcoin University has.
Like the BitAX and Datum and all of this, they're working towards that self-sovereignty and working towards the idea that Bitcoin is very don't trust, verify, and has that open source ethos, and mining hasn't really been that.
I hate to break it to you, bro, but it's because we've lost this feature. We've lost this. This is just one of many features that are slowly going to be lost in Bitcoin, and we have to do something about it. Otherwise, Bitcoin is going to be changed, and it's not going to be the Bitcoin we know today. And I have one more clip to show you. This is ultimate Bitcoin cope. This is proof that we've lost the ability to solo mine. This product should not exist.
The BitAX.
What the hell is this? What is this? So Bitcoin has lost the ability to solo mine. So there's a company out there to feed off the dream, the copium, that maybe one day you'll hit a block. Please, Mara Inc., please let me mine a block on my own. Please, BlackRock with 23% ownership in Mara. My BitAX is gonna take you on all by myself. The reason this is insane is because, guess what? I hate to break it to you, but you're never going to hit blocks unless you join one of like the 3 massive centralized mining pools, okay? That's the problem, and it's only going to get worse. Take a look at this article. Decentralization essentially is a gamble at this point. That's all this device is. It's not even to support the network. It's just a lottery ticket. That's literally all this is compared to. So people in their own homes have lost the ability to run the Bitcoin network sovereignly. And there's such a simple fix. It's not supposed to be that way. Bitcoin is supposed to be to where you can run and mine it in your home. So this is something we've lost with Bitcoin, and I have solutions at the end of this video, but let's continue. And just a heads up, I'm ragging on BTC Sessions. I'm not really trying to go after him personally. What I'm doing is going after the idea that Bitcoin is perfect. So many Bitcoiners believe that Bitcoin is perfect when it's not. There's just so much cope out there, and this is one example, and it needs to stop. So I just want to add one more thing too. BTC Sessions is actually advocating for the same thing we are in this video. He's advocating. He's like, yes, like the centralized mining is a risk. Let's put the power back in the hands of the people. And you can see how excited he is. His heart is in the right place. But he's also a victim of this issue in Bitcoin. The Bitcoin feature of solo mining, because it's gone, he now has to use a BitAX. Like, this shouldn't be the only way to bring back solo mining. We should fix the root of the issue. So I get into that later in this video. So huge thanks to BTC Sessions for actually advocating for this direction in Bitcoin. I think that this is really important and more Bitcoiners should do what he's doing. So I'm also just poking some jabs.
Is a low cost, low sound, low power, fully open source Bitcoin miner that you can run in your home. And today we're going to be taking a look at how to run it in the most self-sovereign way possible with your own Bitcoin node and with your own datum gateway.
All right, well, what about number 2? Well, the medium of exchange feature. On Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin can't handle the medium of exchange feature. So there's another computer network that actually handles the Bitcoin peer-to-peer payments. That's called the layer 2. It's very cool. It's a nice technology, but it's a layer 2. Bitcoin is the layer 1. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. The layer 2 is a network that isn't Bitcoin. Anything that's not Bitcoin is a shitcoin, in my opinion, right? The base layer has hash rate. The layer 2 does not, right? It's a little slower than you'd like, and it's a little expensive to use. And we know that this is only going to get a little bit worse, but it's not a huge deal. But it's just enough that people are like, well, let's not use the base layer. Well, that's the same issue with gold. So they scaled to the layer 2. And all the layer 2s are, for now, backed 1-to-1. For now, until they're not. And that's why we have Bitcoin roleplay cope videos like this lying around. He's about to discuss his concerns with the layer 2 of Bitcoin as he proceeds to show you the medium of exchange function of Bitcoin.
Liquid is somewhere in that middle gray zone. It's not nearly as good as self-custody. Of course, we know this.
Why isn't it as good as self-custody? And why are you explaining things that aren't Bitcoin, right? Isn't this a Bitcoin channel? Aren't we supposed to be talking about Bitcoin? Why are we talking about something that's not Bitcoin here? What's going on? What is this? What is this? So this is the acid test right here. Here's how to tell if you're on Bitcoin or not on Bitcoin. If you have to explain something that isn't Bitcoin, then you're not using Bitcoin. If you explain Bitcoin, then it's fine. That's why in order to understand the layer 2, you always have to understand some weird set of rules that does not align at all with the mechanics of Bitcoin, is because it's not Bitcoin. And he also mentioned that you can't even self-custody. That's correct. You can't self-custody the layer 2 on a cold storage wallet because it's not Bitcoin. There are other rules. This is a network outside of Bitcoin.
11 of the 15 multi-sig signers, 11 of the 15 out of that federation would have to simultaneously collude to rug pull and break that peg between Bitcoin and liquid Bitcoin. Okay?
Mr. BTC Sessions, would you ever use an altcoin with 15 nodes? Hell no. Do you know why? Because your whole channel is based on sound money that has over 20,000 nodes. And this is the crux of the problem. Look at the cope. Bitcoin is awesome. The base layer has 20,000 nodes. Why are we caving in and using a network that has 15 nodes? That is insane. Just for the medium of exchange function of Bitcoin. And so because we're losing this feature, tutorials like this have to exist. We shouldn't need tutorials like this because Bitcoin should just work.
Now, I'm not advising people sit in liquid Bitcoin indefinitely.
What? Why not? Why would we not want to do that, Mr. BTC Sessions? Why would I not want to put all my money on 15? No, because it's not Bitcoin. Again, I love BTC Sessions. He's a great guy. I'm just using him as an example to disprove that Bitcoin is perfect. That's a false belief.
But as a mid-term stacking mechanism to reduce fees, it could be a viable option.
What? Why do you want to reduce fees? I thought the base layer was cheap. I thought it could be used for medium of exchange. Why are we having to reduce fees here? What? It's because we've lost this feature. Bitcoin is losing features, guys. So for now, maybe, musical chairs is still playing. But you know who's going to get screwed when the music stops? not the people on the layer 1. All right. What have we also lost with Bitcoin? Well, those who run a node. More specifically, there are now people who can't run an archival node. The people who have the value of Bitcoin knots. They can't run an archival node anymore. They're done. The whole point of a node is it's your voice. Your voice in the protocol. Well, if your voice is advocating for Bitcoin knots, you don't have it. And what do I mean by that? You can't run an archival node because other people are using the network in a way that you disagree with, and they have high risk content that you don't want to store. So you can't store an archival node because of other people's actions. This is something that Bitcoin's lost. So anyone who values what Bitcoin knots values, they can really only realistically run a pruned node. But the problem with Bitcoin is they need archival nodes to support the network fully, to be self-sovereign. So they can't do that. They've lost their ability to fully be self-sovereign. Okay? And this is because the code has never changed. And so because of that, Bitcoin is changing. So what's next on the chopping block? Well, eventually, self-custody, and eventually, the hard cap. These are all features of Bitcoin. So take every feature you love, and there's just a chronological order of which ones are going to be popped out. Boom, 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 boom. Get rid of that Bitcoin feature. The code is not changing. Protocol, it's not going to have the feature you like. Now, it might not happen this year, but it's slowly happening. We've already lost 3 features. Prove me wrong. I'd love to see a video. So what's the next feature? Self-custody and the hard cap. And this isn't a joke. This isn't an exaggeration. I'll have a video explaining everything to back up the claims of the hard cap and self-custody. It mainly has to do with the security budget and the layer 2. These things are crippling Bitcoin, and they are 100% going to be out the window in 10 years. So yeah, but we are losing Bitcoin features. If you value self-sovereignty and a fixed hard cap, you need to be curious about this. I don't see a lot of Bitcoin people caring about this. However, there is a protocol that has already solved this. I'm a Bitcoin maxi, but I actively do not worry about these things. So how can I not worry? I just basically said doom and gloom situation about Bitcoin with all this stuff. All right, I'm a Bitcoin maxi. Well, guess what? I use Kaspa. It's literally solved all this stuff. It's solved everything with the nodes. All of those symptoms, boom, gone. It's fixed it. And I'll have videos explaining why, but this is the answer to the problem. I will have videos fully explaining why. You can check out the rest on the channel. But yes, these are not an issue on Kaspa. Kaspa addresses the issue that Bitcoin has. Bitcoin has had these issues and they've been ignored. And there's only going to be more that pop up. So, yeah.